Hello, my name is ET and this is D&D with ET. Today I'm going to guide you through my first adventure that I've published, Love Till Undeath. I've playtested this adventure about 8 times for groups all over Australia, and I've really iterated upon it and tried to put the lightning in a bottle into this booklet so that you can run that for your group. It's very heavy in roleplay, and it has NPCs with very strong motivations that fit together in an idiosyncratic way. And the adventure is based on Frankenstein.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
So the backstory to this adventure is that the brothers, William and Victor Stein, are in love with the same woman, Elizabeth. And she was engaged to William, but she had a brief love affair with Victor. But on the night before her wedding, she disappeared and she was found dead on the mountainside. And everybody sort of blamed Victor out of jealousy. William moved on and became the town mayor and stuff like this, but Victor became Dr. Stein, and he's been obsessed with recreating Elizabeth's perfect beauty in these vile undead constructs ever since. And that's 10 years ago, so today he's finally starting to create these undead constructs, and they've been running amok in the town. They've been stealing, grave robbing, kidnapping people even, and that's where your players come in to stop this mess. So the first character that your players will meet is the Stitched Woman. Now, you wouldn't call her the Stitched Woman. She actually has no name because she's been born last week in Stein's dungeons, and she escaped and she was trying to find some food in town, and that's when she was captured and put up for execution just for being undead. But she has this large stitched scar that halves her face, which is a dead giveaway. Because she was born last week, she is just transfixed with all these new experiences that she's having. So if she sees a flower, she might stare at it for hours and stuff like this. But she also has the brain of a late librarian. So she has, even though they're not her memories, she has a lot of book knowledge from the books that the librarian did read. But she interprets a lot of that book knowledge too literally because she hasn't lived the experience. So a lot of social etiquette she does not understand. If she tries to cook a meal for your party, sort of to repay them for their help, she's going to interpret the cookbook instructions too literally. So for example, if the instructions say, let the dough rest, she's going to tuck the dough in for a good night's sleep, right? Stuff like this. So she's a really fun character to play, and your players will really get attached to her, and they'll probably give her a name because she doesn't start with one. And yeah, they meet her as she's being executed, and it's sort of up to them to save her. The second character your players will meet is the mayor, William Stein. Now, he has a really great quote. My brother is not a necromancer. He's merely a scientist. Now, what that means is that all the townsfolk and almost everyone in this adventure calls Dr. Stein a necromancer. But William is much more sympathetic to his brother. He just thinks he's a scientist who's been led astray because he hasn't been able to move on past Elizabeth's death. He also blames himself for Elizabeth's death because they had a very heated argument before she ran off and died in the mountainside, or at least that's what he says. But yeah, it's going to be up to your players to work out how guilty he is on that front. Betty is going to answer the door when if your players knock on the laboratory door. And she's very polite, and she's this maid assistant kind of character for Dr. Stein, but she is an undead construct, and she actually views herself on top of the pecking order of all of Stein's undead constructs. And she's going to be very jealous if that pecking order is changed, or if Stein shows affection towards anyone other than her. So she's very loyal to Dr. Stein. where a lot of the other undead constructs are not. So she's there to give that diversity. Then we have Stein's monster, the Frankenstein, if you will. Stein's monster stands 7 feet tall with the heart of a bear, the ears of a bat, and different length legs. But he's actually a gentle giant and very cowardly of strangers. He's been abused by Dr. Stein, punishing him for not obeying commands perfectly. He actually just wants some friends, to be honest. And if your players can befriend him, they will have a very strong ally to help defeat Dr. Stein in the final encounter. And then finally, we have the man, Dr. Stein himself. Visitors! My name is Dr. Stein. You've heard of me. Are you here to volunteer your body parts for science? Yeah, so Dr. Stein wears a white lab coat stained with blood, and he leans in and raises an eyebrow when he addresses your player characters. And the more Mad Hatter you can roleplay him as, the better. Dr. Stein, he's not the strongest combatant by himself, but he's actually put a part of his soul in like a Horcrux phylactery sort of thing in this lavender painting, which reminds him of the last time he saw Elizabeth. So your players will actually have to destroy that to be able to hurt Dr. Stein in the first place, because if your barbarian just rushes at Dr. Stein and cuts him in half, he's gonna and then he's gonna smile gleefully as his body regenerates rapidly before the barbarian's eyes. And yeah, it's a really creepy scene. Those were their NPCs in Loved Till Undeath. Each of their descriptions has a bit of how to roleplay them, as well as their ideology and where they fit into this adventure. All of those NPCs, I think you can tell 1,000 different stories with them, and just having them fit together in different ways. The rest of this adventure is how I've made them fit together for me. But yeah, I really encourage you to download this free adventure and just read through the NPCs and be inspired to maybe tell their story in a different way even. The first encounter I have is the execution. And this is where they first meet the Stitched Woman. She is bound to an execution pyre, and the players enter the scene in the town square as the guards light the execution pyre. And you roll initiative straight away because time is of the essence, even though combat might not actually happen in this encounter. Maybe your players just use diplomacy to quickly diffuse the situation. But I like to break my encounters down into the 4 T's. So we have threat. The threat is the guards at the execution pyre, as well as the guards hidden, perched atop a rooftop with heavy crossbows. The second T is terrain. That is the crowd around the execution pyre. It's going to be difficult terrain to move through the crowd, as well as the crowd are like vengeful. They want to see this Stitched Woman die. So your players are not only going to have to talk to the guard to stop this execution, but they're going to have to sort of calm the crowd down so that they don't have a riot on their hand. This third T is treat. Wealthy noble with a fat purse of coins if one of your players wants to steal that to get a bit richer, but otherwise the Stitched Woman has information. She can guide them on this quest of theirs. The final T is timer. So that is the fire that is being lit underneath the Stitched Woman's feet. It's going to engulf her in fire in 1d4 rounds. So your players are really going to see that countdown because you're going to roll the d4 in front of them, and they're going to be rushing to do something about it. After this encounter, they're going to speak to the Stitched Woman, learn a bit about her life in Stein's dungeons as a lab rat. They're then going to go and meet with Mayor William, get his information, and this is just, a general guide of how your players can go about this adventure. I've also included a list of rumors and clues, which can help you if your players do go a little bit off track investigating the town. I then have a short travel challenge to climb up the mountain. It's basically just a best of 3 skill check to climb the mountain to Stein's laboratory. Stein's laboratory is actually Elizabeth's family's old estate, so it has her room in it that has been perfectly preserved and cleaned every single day and hasn't been rearranged at all. But the rest of Stein's laboratory is an absolute mess. Inside is an old banquet hall, repurposed into a mad scientist's wet dream. Every inch of the place is covered in scrap notebooks, dry blood, surgeon tools, jars of preserved body parts, and dissected animals. Dr. Stein is in the center of the room, muttering to himself as he binds a screaming undead construct. Like I said previously, Dr. Stein starts invulnerable to damage, basically, and your players have to go and investigate the rest of his laboratory while Dr. Stein is working to sort of find his weakness, as well as ally with some of the other undead and cause a ruckus in general. So there's a few different things they can discover in this laboratory. The first is, of course, the phylactery, which is Lavenders by a Lake painting, which reminds Dr. Stein of the last encounter he had with Elizabeth. So if they destroy that, they destroy a part of Dr. Stein's soul, and they can then try to kill him. But inside the dungeons is a whole bunch more, dozens of undead constructs that look exactly like the Stitch Woman, exactly like Betty, exactly like Elizabeth, and they're all just floating in test tubes. And your players can let these creatures out and cause an absolute riot if they want to. They can also climb up the tower and meet Dr. Stein's monster and sort of befriend him, because he's quite a powerful foe if they do not befriend him. But there's also a lightning rod power source up there, which is going to power Dr. Stein's final attack. So if your players do deactivate this lightning rod, then Dr. Stein's going to maniacally go to do his final attack, and he's just going to be pressing the button, panicking and not knowing what to do. So that's quite a good payoff for your players investigating this laboratory. Finally, we have Elizabeth's diary, which is actually hidden inside Elizabeth's old room, and because it's been kept in perfect nick, Dr. Stein hasn't actually read this diary before. So your players can sort of confront him with some of the secrets in there. The main secret is that Elizabeth was actually pregnant, probably with Dr. Stein's child, with Victor's child. And obviously she then died, and the baby with her. So it can be quite confronting if you can really embody Dr. Stein, because he could have had created a, clone of himself and Elizabeth in this child naturally, but he's instead become obsessed with unnaturally creating these children. So it's a real clash of nature versus science there. And it's unfortunate, right? But sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. It's the secret that is dramatic, that a lot of the drama between these two brothers will come up towards in this adventure. And your players are going to be trying to figure out who the real killer of Elizabeth was. Why did she die? And I have not put the answer to that question inside this booklet. I think you know your group better than I do, and you can come up with a more dramatic reason as to who killed Elizabeth, why it happened, something like this. Or maybe your players come up with an even crazier reason, and you just go with whatever their crazy theory was. That's what I usually do. This was my free adventure available on DM's Guild, Loved Till Undeath. Get it now.